Most really good salespeople that I know have assistants to help them keep track of everything. And now AI can do that, but even better than that assistant, because that AI can literally run on my phone in my pocket. And that means that no matter where that salesperson is, whether he's at a conference, in his office, or maybe even on the golf course, or her, they have all that information and those capabilities available to them in their phone. And that allows them to respond faster. It allows things to get to move faster. And I'm rambling a lot, but the long thing, I think it's going to make closing deals, it's going to shorten that selling cycle.
Are you a scaling SaaS founder? Ready to make the leap from leading a team to leading an organization? Join us each week as we refill your think tank with actionable tips and strategies from great business minds you know and those who don't know yet. This is SaaS Fuel with your host, 5-time entrepreneur, SaaS founder, and globetrotting adventurer, Jeff Maines.
Welcome back to the SaaS Fuel podcast, where turning overwhelm into opportunity is the business version of alchemy, equal parts mindset, magic, and muting Slack for 20 glorious minutes. I'm your host, Jeff Maines. I help B2B SaaS founders like you grow from traction to scale. Here, growth is more than just numbers. It's about crafting a future-proof company, premium valuation, and leaders who build a business of significance while living epic, adventurous lives. What if your team could gain back 1,000 hours every month without hiring a single new person or burning them out in the process? In this episode, we're diving into a practical, no fluff conversation about how AI can supercharge productivity and simplify operations in ways that actually stick. And I'm not talking about vague promises or futuristic hype. There's plenty of that around there around AI. We're talking about real tools, real use cases, and real time savings like reclaiming over an hour per day per employee just by integrating AI into daily workflows. You'll learn how AI tools like ChatGPT and others are being used to automate repetitive tasks, improve customer support with sentiment analysis, and streamline sales follow ups, all without sacrificing quality or customer experience. And the results? Faster responses, happier clients, and a team that actually has time to focus on what really matters. But maybe the biggest mindset shift comes from this: AI doesn't replace experience, it amplifies it. The more seasoned your people are, the more powerful these tools become in their hands. That's where the compounding effect kicks in. And that's where growth becomes exponential. We'll also discuss how founders and execs can begin implementing AI without overwhelming their teams or disrupting core processes. I know that's a big concern for so many companies right now. Think of this as your playbook for scalable efficiency, whether you're a team of 10 or 200 or 1,000. If you're serious about boosting performance, cutting busy work, and giving your team tools that help them do their best work faster, this episode is the productivity upgrade you didn't know you needed. Let's get into it. Our expert guest last Thursday was Mike Barton, VP at AudioEye, where he's making the web more inclusive without compromising clarity. A storytelling strategist with roots at Adobe, Mike shared why accessibility is a growth lever, not a legal checkbox. From simplifying jargon to using AI for content clarity, this episode is a masterclass in writing that connects and converts across all audiences and makes your audience bigger too. And our founder last week was Garrett Rice, co-founder and CEO of Callings.ai, a job search platform built for people, not algorithms. A former Apple exec, Garrett created the tools he wished he had during his own career pivot. On the episode, he dives into how AI can generate elevator pitches, prep you for interviews, and guide job seekers with empathy and precision in a hiring market that too often overlooks the human behind the resume. If you missed either of those episodes, go back and give them a listen. And in Garrett's episode on Callings.ai, there's actually some really cool gold nuggets in there at the end that you can actually give to people who are departing or to employees that you don't hire. So go check that out. My guest today is Jonathan Mast, a prompting pioneer, AI educator, and digital strategist who's helped over 100,000 entrepreneurs bridge the gap between curiosity and execution when it comes to AI. With a background in business systems, marketing, and tech enablement, Jonathan has spent his entire career helping business owners simplify complexity and turn overwhelming technology into practical results. He's the founder of one of the fastest growing AI focused communities online and a trusted voice for leaders who want to scale smarter, not just faster. Jonathan's known for translating advanced tools into simple, actionable strategies that anyone can use without losing the human side of the business. Welcome someone who's making AI accessible, actionable, and actually effective. Jonathan Mast. Hey, Jonathan, welcome to SaaS Fuel.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat with you today. Looking forward to the conversation.
Well, you've built and exited that seven figure agency and now lead global AI education community, which is very cool. What first drew you into the world of AI prompting?
Well, as you said, I used to have an agency, and late 2022, when ChatGPT came out with their graphical user interface that made AI accessible to sales and marketing guys like me, because I'm not a
Yeah,
developer. At first, when I heard about it being in the digital space, I'm like, we don't need another chatbot. We've got tons of chatbots for our websites, and never realized what it really was. And about 2, 3 weeks after it came out, I started using it and playing with it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is nothing like anything I've thought of before. And I guess it's important to if you've ever read much about entrepreneurs, I am the quintessential ADHD visionary entrepreneur. That's where I fit, meaning I've got more ideas. I don't tend to be very focused. I tend to bounce all over. And what AI did really quickly for me is it gave me the ability to get things done faster. And one of my mantras, especially in the last decade, has been success loves speed implementation. And
yes,
now I was able to take those ideas that I had, and instead of going and explaining to somebody else and getting help to run it through, I was literally, in most cases, able to get that idea very near to completion in minutes or maybe hours if it was a huge project, when it would have taken me hours or weeks in the past to do that. And so to me, as an ADHD entrepreneur, it was like my mind was blown. And I'm like, this is so cool. I can get so much more done. But I also found out that my team was a little bit concerned about it. They're like, oh, this might replace us. And I don't believe that will happen for most people. Yes,
right.
it's new technology, there'll be some of that, but I really got drawn into it because as I dove into the I realized that I had an incredible passion for it, that I just saw it as a true, I'm going to borrow now what's become an AI phrase, game changer in the world. And I really just believed it was something I wanted to help business leaders and their teams understand, because my core belief is that AI amplifies skill and experience. And as a result of that, for the first time in my 50 some years, it allows us as businesses to save time, to make more money, and to deliver more value to our clients all at the same time. In the past, it was always like you can have any two of the three. If you save time and make more money, you're going to give less to the client. Or
Right.
if you want to make more money, then it's going to take more time. Now we can do all three of those with AI when properly implemented and used to collaborate with an assistant as opposed to handing things off entirely. So that's kind of what got me into it. I've been super excited, and now I love to talk to people about it almost every day.
That's awesome. Well, you've trained thousands and you have 400,000 person community, which is pretty incredible. And what do you think resonates most with people who are maybe overwhelmed by AI and but still really curious about what it can do and want to dive in? Because it changes so fast.
It doesn't. And that's really good for me being that ADHD entrepreneur because it keeps me
Yes.
excited. But I get the overwhelm. I think what works well for our community, at least, has been the fact that we really are focused on practical implementation. In other words, we're not trying to be really at that point of that plow, so to speak. We're trying to be just a few inches back from that. And that means that will there be people that maybe introduce and do something really cool a day, a week, a month before we do? Sure. But most business owners don't need to be at that point of that plow, breaking that sod as they go forward. They
Right.
need to be watching and seeing what's happening. And then once it's proven, then they need to be able to implement that in their teams. And so I think what we've noticed, especially with the overwhelm, and it's real, I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of people are overwhelmed, is our focus on keeping things simple. That old, KISS, keep it simple, stupid methodology,
Yep.
because that allows busy business owners and busy teams. And let's face it, our teams rarely have more time than they do tasks. They've got more tasks, to do.
Of
And
course.
it allows us to then say, okay, without you becoming an expert at everything AI, how can I use a tool? Maybe it's ChatGPT, maybe it's Microsoft Copilot, maybe it's Gemini. How can I use a tool to help really leap ahead of where I'm at without that tool? And then accept that over time, I will learn new things that add even more value. But the goal isn't to optimize things from day one. The goal day one is to go, I always compare it to a roofer. I don't know why I've never done a roof, but in the old days, people would, they'd climb up on the roof, they'd go ahead and they'd take their hammers and their nails and they'd pound the shingles on. Well, nowadays we have pneumatic nailers, so everything gets delivered by high-low up to the roof. They get up there and it's pop, 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 and they put shingles on a lot faster.
Right.
Even a new roofer with a pneumatic hammer is going to be nailers far faster than a seasoned roofer with a hammer. And
Yep.
I think AI really fits that same type of thing. And it's like even somebody new with AI using it only in select areas can still see huge productivity gains. And what's so cool about it in my mind is that it often actually allows us to create better results for the clients we serve, in addition to being able to do that faster. And again, I think it goes back to that amplification.
I like that. The amplification. You said that I'm going to amplify, or AI amplifies skill and experience. So not
Yeah.
necessarily replacing people, making that better. Let's unpack that a little bit. What does that look like in a practical business context?
In a practical context, what that means to me is that we're not doing a wholesale replacement of our teams with AI. My team, for example, we've expanded a lot because of AI. Now, my team uses it a lot, and I may have fewer people on staff than what I might have had 2 years ago, as far as, if I was doing the same thing. But I actually don't think that's the case. I look at I'm a small business. We do coaching, and that's our business. 2 years ago before AI, 3 years ago before AI, we would not have had the need to have the 9 people on staff that I currently have, because we couldn't have grown fast enough and served enough people. So while my team is using AI and it is allowing them to do 2 to 3 times more work than they could have done 2 years ago, I now have a need because of AI, because it's expanded our reach, it's expanded our influence, it's given us more opportunities. I have a bigger company with more staff than I would have without AI, if that makes any sense. And
Right.
I
It
think
does.
I think for a lot of businesses that's true. Will there be job displacement? Yeah, every new technology displaces someone. And that's unfortunate, but it's the reality. Whether we're talking the printing press, whether we're talking electricity, whether we're talking the internal combustion engine, or the PC on the desk, the internet, all of those replaced some people. But I believe that AI is going to create a multitude more jobs than what were removed. And I don't think even today in 2025, I don't think we really know what most of those jobs are going to be, because so much of it is things that we've never even thought of before. Maybe we saw it on Star Trek and thought it was cool, but
Right.
it's a lot of what we're diving into has historically been in sci-fi, and now as it's the rubber hits the road, so to speak, we're seeing practical implementations that sometimes are a bit different and actually creating positions that we would have never had in the past.
I think not only positions, but companies that didn't exist now exist and employ a bunch of people. And I think there'll be industries, and the jobs that we're thinking about, the jobs that we're doing today, or the jobs, even college students, the jobs they're thinking about as they're starting today. Those may not exist in a few years,
Hmm.
but there'll be a whole bunch of new opportunities that don't even exist today, because
Yes.
all of these new industries and companies and positions and roles are being created constantly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the exciting part for me. Again, I suppose being an ADHD entrepreneur, that helps, because I love new stimulus and new things like that. But I think, they talk about, are we in that era of we're going to see the first one-person billion-dollar company? I don't know if it'll happen in 2025. It could happen in 2026. I
Yeah,
will certainly bet by 2030 it's absolutely happened, and
of
multiple
course.
times. I think it'll be like that 4-minute mile. Before anyone ever ran a 4-minute mile, people considered that to be physically impossible.
Right.
And I forget the name of the gentleman there, but once the first
Roger
guy
Bannister.
did it, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Once the first guy did it, all of a sudden, within the next year, dozens of other people had done it. That what we thought was truly an impossibility, as soon as we broke that barrier. And I think we're going to see that happening time and time again with AI as people learn different ways to do things. Again, you had asked earlier about, AI and replacing staff. My team uses the AI as an example, and we use the new tools to be more productive, but I still can't get by without my ops manager just because I have AI. The
Right.
difference is now my ops manager and I both use AI and are able to collaborate and get more done faster.
Yeah, it significantly affects the speed to execution, speed of business, speed of results, conversation. I think you have much higher level conversations because a lot of the grunt work and the simple stuff is done and handled, and now we can really focus on what matters.
Yeah, exactly. And that's been one of the key things for me as an entrepreneur is it has given me more time to actually work on the business instead of just in the business. We hear anytime we're starting up businesses and growing businesses, there's always that juxtaposition between the founder, especially working in the business, actually doing things that need to be done, and then working on the business, which are things that cause growth and improve service and that. And let's face it, for most of us, we spend a lot more time working in the business than we do working on the business. And
Right.
I find for myself and a lot of the people that I coach, AI gives us an opportunity to get more time. It's not like it removes us from working in the business. It allows us to do that faster, and therefore it gives us more time to work on the business. How can we grow our team? How can we better serve our customers? How can we grow the company?
What do you think that the difference is in somebody that's just using Chat GPT and someone who's using it really, really well, or other tools? That's certainly not the only one.
Yeah, no, the tools I'm fairly agnostic on. I think we often get too caught up, especially as business leaders, and we want the perfect tool. When
Right.
the reality is, I compare it a lot to cars. If I have to drive 30 miles to go meet you for lunch, walking is not probably a good solution because it's going to take up my whole day just to walk and have lunch and
Right.
walk back. So I need a vehicle. Now, I may have a preference in the vehicle I use, but at the end of the day, if I have a vehicle that runs well, it really doesn't matter what brand it is. It really doesn't matter whether it's gas, diesel, or electric. It really doesn't matter how comfortable it is as long as it's capable of getting me there reliably. And I think that's really where we're at with AI nowadays. Yes, people have their preferences. Some people like ChatGPT, some people like Claude, some people like Gemini. They're all so very close. It's kind of like saying, I walk into the rental car fleet and you can have anyone you want, just get to the destination you want to go. They're
Right.
all going to get you there. And there's some slight differences, but whether I'm driving a Chevy minivan, and I'll pick in minivans, a Chrysler minivan or a Honda minivan, they're all going to get me to my location. And that's really, I think, where AI is at nowadays is any of the tools will largely get you where you want to go. Are there some differences? Yeah, there absolutely are. But use the one that you've got and then run with it. And to answer your question, is there a difference between a beginner user and an advanced user? Oh, absolutely. But even that beginner user can get so much done using AI as a tool that it's such a valuable thing. And yes, like most tools, the better we get at mastering them, the more we can do. And all of a sudden, we see new things that come up all the time with new challenges and new opportunities. I've been doing this and coaching people for almost 2 years, and I still find things almost every day that I'm like, "Oh, I never thought of that before."
Yeah.
It's just it keeps expanding like that snowball rolling down a hill.
Oh, without a doubt. What are some of the things that companies are overlooking in the way that the tools can serve them and help them, save a ton of time? I think a lot of businesses, really waste a lot of time
Mhm.
and can use AI to really capture some of that back. Not optimizing everything, but really focusing in on the things that have high returns. What are some of those that they're maybe not thinking about?
I think a lot of businesses, when they start looking at AI, they start trying to figure out how they can kind of get the whole enchilada, so to speak. In other words, how can I have it do everything?
Right.
When the reality is, it's like a toddler. We need to stand up before we walk, and then we need to take a couple steps and fall. We need to start step by step. And one of the things I encourage my students to do is identify those things that you're doing on a recurring basis that don't necessarily feed you. Dan Martell wrote a great book a couple years ago called Buy Back Your Time. And one of
Sure.
the things he talks about in there is track your day every 15 minutes, and then either green light, red, yellow light, or red light at the end of the day. Green, this fed me. I love this. This was great. I want to do more of that. Yellow, it's got to be done. I get it. I don't mind doing it. And red was, oh, I hate doing that, but I know I've got to do it.
Yeah.
Well, I always encourage people to start with those red tasks and, take those and let AI help you do that. For me, and some people may have put, there were really two areas that immediately jumped out that were red tasks. One was creating standard operating procedures. As an ADHD entrepreneur, I knew the value of them, but taking the time to dig in and get to that detail level was really painful.
Yeah.
But now with AI, I could literally describe the process I wanted my team to follow. I could even take a video and hand that off to AI, and it could,
Exactly.
based on that, create an SOP. So all of a sudden, something that I knew was important, but I really detested doing, I could do. The other for me was responding to those difficult emails. We don't get a lot of those, but whether it's a vendor or a customer, when you need to say, okay, I got to say this the right way, sometimes it's a coworker, but maybe you need to draw some boundaries. Those always caused me to
Right.
take pause because I knew I had to be very tactful and purposeful in the way I did that. Well, AI now allows me to take those emails. If you send me one and I need to respond to that, I can literally take your email, paste it into any AI engine and say, I want to respond in the following way, but help me say it professionally. And voila, in about 3 seconds, I've got an email that I probably need to change less than 5 or 6 words in, and it's done. And it's better than what I would have spent 20 minutes trying to write 2 days ago
Yeah.
without AI. So those are two things that immediately pop out. And I think it's different for different people. But instead of looking at these massive projects that we can offload, I think it's better for us as businesses to take a look at what are those small things that I can do that may win me 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. If I answer, let's say, 3 of those emails a day that I have to think about, and I can use AI, it means I saved an hour if everyone took me 20 minutes to go through and think about. The reality is, I probably didn't take the 20 minutes and I probably didn't write them as good, or I did the old entrepreneur trick of I'll get to it tomorrow. Then
Right.
tomorrow never came. So now I'm actually able to expedite processes and move things forward faster because I can get through some of those red tasks and then take a look at those yellow ones that, okay, I don't mind doing these, but I don't love doing these. Maybe it's reviewing reports. I know it's important. I don't really mind it, but it doesn't get me excited. Well, if I can now use AI to help me take a look at those weekly reports, identify things that I need to be paying attention to, it's not removing me from it, but it's like taking an expert that's in my pocket, in my, whether it's on my phone or my computer or wherever, and giving it that ability to do really cool things. I'll give you one simple example. I know I'm rambling,
Sure.
but the other day I used a new agentic browser. So Perplexity, which is an AI company, has released a
Yep.
browser called Comet, has AI built into it. And I've connected it into my email and my calendar. And one day, about 2 weeks ago, I had gotten 9 to 11, I'm not quite sure, but I got a bunch of emails from an event sponsor that I'm working with for the next year of all their events, invitation to all the events, the dates, the times. And it was like, to me, I looked at it and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's just way too much work. I typically would have just had my assistant go through, accept them all, figure it out. And then, by the way, put together just a nice little table for me to say, here's the events, here's the dates, and here's where they are. So I can kind of mentally go over that. Instead of sending it to my assistant, though, I just asked Comment. And I said, could you look at my email? I got a bunch of them. Her name was Veronica. I don't remember her last name. I got a bunch of emails. Go through, accept them. The same thing I would have told my assistant. And what was amazing to me is in about 25, 30 seconds, it went through and it did everything we just talked about. It read all the emails, it accepted them. It then put together basically a sheet for me with all the events and locations. And then I said, oh, great. Can we send it to my ops manager and my wife? Because my wife sometimes travels with me. So can we send it to both? Here's what's really cool. I didn't tell it what my ops manager's email was or what my wife's email was. Now, I did use their first names. It
Sure.
then went into my email and it came back and said, okay, is this the email for Beth and is this the email for Romay? Yes, that's them.
That's awesome.
And I pressed, and it wrote the email and did everything. And in the time that I could have talked to my assistant about doing that, maybe less because there was no back and forth with it, it was now done. And
It's
we
done.
it was done. Last night I had a similar one. I run a Facebook group, as you mentioned, and we last night, due to various reasons, decided to turn on post approvals so that we can get a little better control on the spam in a big group. I, for the life of me, couldn't figure out where to do that. I literally told the AI model, again, Comment, Can you find out where to do this? And what was so cool is it took over the active display, the screen that I had, the window, and it started clicking on buttons, looking through until it actually located for me. And if you've ever used Facebook, it was 27 menus down to where I had to
Yes.
go. It actually located and go, here it is. And then it said, would you like me to turn it on for you? Yes. And it actually pressed the button. It did all that. And again, as a busy entrepreneur, the last thing I wanted to do was spend hours digging for it because I would have given up after 5 minutes and told my team to do it. And they don't want to spend the time digging through it either. Now,
Right.
literally in minutes, I was able to have AI help me do something. That didn't take anybody's job. It didn't hurt anything. It actually created more productive capabilities and capacity by using that.
Oh, that's really, really good. I think that's pretty amazing. Just what can happen now, and just like we talked about before, the things that are coming, we can't even comprehend some of them at the moment. If you'd said 2 years ago you're going to have a browser that is intelligent, that can actually do that, it'll put stuff on your calendar, it'll summarize, it will browse websites for you and find things, it'll go and click buttons, it'll make reservations for you, it'll do all these things. It's like, no, that's made up. That won't really
Hmm.
happen. It can't do that. Yeah, it can't read a
Yeah.
website. Oh, but
Well,
it
and
can.
I admit I was surprised. I'm like, I need to take a video of this because I've never seen this happen before. And that's, I think, what you were talking about. We don't know what we don't know right now. We don't
Yeah,
know. Had you literally asked me 2 weeks ago, well, probably 2 months ago, because I've seen some demos, but do you think AI could actually navigate a website for you, that it could understand the website, especially, multiple menus and all this and that? Now, it's always been good at telling me how to get there, it's giving me
right.
that SOP, but actually then doing it. And like last night going, would you like me to enable this feature? Yeah, please do. I was able to sit here at my desk just like I'm at now and not have to click through, not have to. I literally was able just to tell it what I wanted done. It asked for verification and did it. And again, did it faster than I could have on my own. And I can certainly say in my case last night with far less frustration than had I had to do it on my own.
That's really, really good. I remember the first time somebody pulled up a PDF, and I think it was Gemini, and we're like, "Watch this," and they pulled it up and was like, "Hey, Gemini, what am I looking at on my screen?" And it's describing it in the PDF, and it's actually reading it, and it has the context and understands what it is. I mean, it's just like mind blowing, and it just opens up. It's like AI can see now, and it's true. It can go and it can browse a website just like a person, which I think we have to start thinking about how we're creating websites so that they're really good for people as well as for AI. UI matters, but then
Tremendously, yes.
yeah, and then how do we take that and make it where it's really easy? So if somebody wants to learn more information about our product, if they want to schedule a demo or a discovery call or whatever it is, how do we make that really easy? Because we're going to continue to see this much bigger where agentic AI is browsing websites and they're the ones that are scheduling demos for whoever it is that sent them out there to do it. Have your bot call my bot.
Yeah. Well, and actually, it's one of the areas I think we're going to see one of the biggest expansions in AI in the next 12 months is actually in the whole customer service side of things. Because once a consumer goes out and has the option, as it ran into the other day, of waiting on hold, talking to somebody that, to fix a problem,
Right.
uh, maybe they do or don't speak your language well, that can be incredibly frustrating.
Yes.
And if AI can do that instead, how much faster and easier would it be?
Right.
The other evening, we were traveling, and I booked a hotel room through Expedia. I got to the hotel, and they told me that it was one of the major chains. There nationally, their computers were down. So unless I'd made a reservation earlier in the day, one, they couldn't see I had a reservation. They didn't even know what rooms were available to be able to give me one.
Wow.
Okay, that happens. I get it. No
Yeah.
problem. So I said, well, great. Can we contact Expedia to let them know so that I can get a refund and I'll just book another room, another hotel? You would think that'd be relatively simple. But what ended up happening is I spent almost an hour on the phone with three different Expedia agents, nothing against Expedia, who didn't speak very good English, who were so focused on following the next step in their process that
Right.
they actually didn't want anything to do with what I had to say, which was basically just, can you just tell me we can get a refund for this room and I can book another room? I'll book it literally down the road. That's all I care.
Right.
Had AI been involved, that probably could have happened in a few minutes because it could have logicked its way through that probably better than some humans could. And it
Yes.
would have created a better experience for me as the consumer. So instead of being frustrated and going, I don't know if I want to use Expedia again because they make it easy to get a room, but oh my gosh, if it goes bad, it's a pain in the butt. Had AI been able to handle that, I would have been really happy. And I think that's why we're going to see such a move there is consumers are going to begin to expect that businesses have AI capabilities to
Yes.
provide them with basic stuff. This was not, some very difficult task. It was pretty simple. And I get they had a process, but so many things in the world have processes. And that means that AI can follow those same processes, but it can do so much faster.
Yes.
And I think that's what we all want, especially at 10 o'clock at night when you're tired and want to get to bed.
Right. Are you missing key relationships that could transform your leadership? Most leaders are. They just can't see it. And here's what shocked me: the most successful leaders aren't lone heroes. They're the center of four specific relationships that multiply their impact while preserving their sanity. You're probably like everybody else, drowning in connections, but starving for real support. And it's creating a silent epidemic of leadership burnout among executives just like you. So, take my free assessment at thecaptainskeys.com. Discover which critical relationships you're missing in under 5 minutes, and then grab my new book, The Captain's Keys, part Netflix drama, part game changing blueprint for leadership that actually sustains you. One CEO called it the owner's manual I never got. So stop flying blind and see what you're missing. Well, it's really gets the consumer in this type of scenario, your customer. You want them to get that outcome as quickly as possible and frustration free. So, what is the right tool for that? And it's not that one is better than another. It's just how do we get them that result faster? And
Yes.
I think the companies that do that well are going to be the real winners.
Yeah. 100%. And that to me is again what a lot of businesses aren't necessarily looking at. The other thing that I see them struggling with is a lot of business leaders are looking, how can I replace departments or things like that? I
Sure.
don't see AI replacing a customer service department. It may
Right.
replace some callers. Where I see it a lot is in sales. Business owners are like, and I'm a sales rep, so I can say this about salespeople. Managing salespeople is like herding cats. It's not fun.
100%.
And and how can I get rid of my annoying salespeople? Yes, I love them because they bring stuff in, but how can I get rid of them and let AI do it? The reality in my mind is that that's not going to happen because mainly because I would rather buy from an individual than buy from AI.
Right.
Unless I know if I'm going to Amazon and I know I need to buy a new set of earbuds and I don't need to, that's easy. But most sales don't happen that way. Most sales involve exploration and discovery and figuring out what I want. And I don't really want AI to necessarily do that with me. But I think AI can help out a good sales rep. Again, it can amplify what we talked about earlier, their skill and experience to make it even better. So now when I have a follow up call with you the day after, instead of trying to remember everything because my AI note taker was on the call and because my AI note taker is looking at my schedule, it can pop up and say, hey, Jonathan, you've got a call with so and so in 5 minutes. And here's the 30-second synopsis you needed of the key points that you needed to follow up on. Here's the thing, their pain points, and here's what we were talking about doing. So now as a sales rep, I'm spending less time having to do that busy work, so to speak, and I'm spending more time building relationships, which result in sales. So I think AI complements, not replaces or at least it should in most circumstances.
And that makes a lot of sense. And I think from just a sales standpoint, things that are simple purchases, if it's low involvement, if it's doesn't require a lot of information, versus if it's is it a complex sale? Is it
Hmm.
expensive? So there
Yes.
there are very different types of purchases. Some can absolutely be handled by AI because they don't matter. But the ones that do matter, if they're expensive, if they're transformational kind of things, if it's not simple, if it's high involvement kind of purchase, that's something I don't think humans will ever be out of the loop on. But we're
Yeah,
gonna
absolutely.
the bar will continue to be raised. We have to add more value when we're in the loop.
And I think that's again where customers are going to begin to expect that more value. And when we as businesses can't provide that higher level of value, that's where we're going to see some upheaval in the business environment because the simple the restaurant that I can't reserve my spot in line for because I know they're busy on Friday night, that I have to wait until I get there to put my name in, as opposed to being able to pull it up on my phone, maybe even from my home and go, oh, it's an hour and a half wait. Well, I don't mind waiting an hour and a half if I can spend most of that at my home. I do mind if I have to do it sitting around there with a bunch of people that I don't know, not in an uncomfortable seat, or maybe standing on the patio waiting. Then I don't like waiting an hour and a half. And so that restaurant in this case that gives the ability through technology to make that reservation, put my name on the waiting list in advance, wins, as opposed to the one that makes me show up and go there.
I love that. And we use that all the time. And
Yeah.
if they don't have online booking like that, if I can't see the wait time, like real wait time and get on the list
Hmm.
now, then 90% of the time, unless it's really important, 90% of the time we'll pick somewhere else because we
And
do.
that's it. Then we just literally just pick another place to go at that point.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, in sales, what are you seeing as maybe the highest ROI applications, especially in SaaS or B2B founders who are trying to scale efficiently?
I think a big part of that is a better ability to target, really from a marketing perspective, our audience in a very personalized way. If I'm trying to grow out a SaaS or anything like that, I know my users really well, but I've always had to market to them and to put my products in order in a way that fit not to a group of one, but to a group of thousands or tens of thousands. And I could get close on that, but I needed more. And AI gives me that ability to personalize those marketing messages, those sales pitches, and everything else to individual specific users. Especially, if we talk about a dream list of here's the list of the people we really want to get signed up. It gives us an ability to customize our messaging in a way that we've never had the ability to do before. So whether that's a sales rep having a meeting that I can now use AI to give me insights into that customer before the meeting, because let's face it, many salespeople are a little lazy. Again, I am one. I'm not trying to throw any stones in glass houses, but that's just the reality. We can use AI to take those sales reps that are tremendous at building relationships and closing deals, and now get them further down the path faster. So
Right.
instead of that deal taking 6 months to close, we're able to close it maybe in 3 weeks because we're able to expedite the whole process and the information gathering that pertains to that. The other thing I think it's a big deal is, most really good salespeople that I know have assistants to help them keep track of everything. And now AI can do that, but even better than that assistant, because that AI can literally run on my phone in my pocket. And that means that no matter where that salesperson is, whether he's at a conference, in his office, or maybe even on the golf course, or her, they have all that information and those capabilities available to them in their phone. And that allows them to respond faster. It allows things to get to move faster. And I'm rambling a lot, but the long thing, I think it's going to make closing deals, it's going to shorten that selling cycle.
Yeah. That's good for everybody.
Yeah. And that's exactly it. It benefits everybody in the process.
Yeah, because time is one of those things that we want to make sure that we're respecting and using well. That's the most precious resource we have. And if we can make that buyer journey faster, more efficient, and get them to the outcome they're looking for faster, I think
Hmm.
everybody wins.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the customer's happy because they spent less time and we're able to get the solution faster. The sales rep's happy. The business is happy. Everybody wins, like you said, in that process.
Well, thinking about support, customer service, that kind of thing, you've worked with teams on AI for sentiment analysis. Yeah,
Yes.
how does that work and how does it improve CSAT or retention? What are the benefits?
Well, I think the biggest benefit is we're not relying on an emotional person to determine emotion. In other words, if I'm
That's
having
good.
a good day or bad day, it will impact how I perceive your sentiment on a call.
It does.
If I woke up this morning and I had a fight with the wife or the kids or the dog or whomever, that's going to impact my filter for at least part of my day, if not my whole day, maybe. External things that are going on. I had a discussion with an author yesterday who's writing a book about teaching teams how to manage finances. Because if your team members are struggling to figure out how they're going to pay their mortgage, they're not going to be all in at work. They're just not going to be able to. And in the same way with sentiment analysis, there's so many things that as humans impact our emotions. And we know that emotional decisions are never the best ones. AI is much more logical. And so it's going to be able to be more consistent once it's been trained properly to give us the same thing and make sure that when it says the sentiment analysis is frustrated, it's truly going to be a frustrated customer. And we know what that means. Or it, somebody else, again, just different people. If you're someone that's truly sensitive to others, you're going to pick up on things that somebody who's less sensitive isn't going to. And again, AI allows more consistency there. And I think that's really important, because when we have consistency, now we can also add in automation. And when we can add in automation, because we can be predictive about what we're actually seeing, it allows us to, again, ultimately provide that better value to everybody involved.
I like that. Well, there are lots of technical founders that are listening for sure, but then there are also other founders like me who are not necessarily technical. How do you teach non-technical teams, founders, marketers, could be operations, to integrate AI and really go deep without needing an engineering team?
I think the biggest thing there is, again, as we kind of said earlier, starting by focusing on those tasks that you or your team are doing that nobody wants to be doing. Most of those, not all, but a lot of those have the ability to be done at least in collaboration with AI, and happen a lot faster.
Yeah.
And, if I have to spend an hour a day doing something I don't love versus 5 minutes, 5 minutes is a whole lot easier. It is plain and simple.
Yes, it
It's a
is.
whole lot easier. And instead of, again, trying to map out everything, and maybe this is because of my ADHD, but instead of trying to map out the entire process of implementing AI in my organization, what I found works so well is to begin and literally take a step at a time without necessarily knowing what the fifth or sixth step might be. In other words, if we're going to bring AI into our organization, let's find some simple areas that we can have some quick wins. And then based upon that, now I'm going to get excited and I'm going to start discovering things. And what we see so often is we encourage people, find one new thing for 4 weeks that AI can help you do. Something you have to do that you go, just one a week. It's simple, doesn't take much time. And then before the 4 weeks is up, we almost always hear back. And it's like, I'm now doing like 27 things with AI that I never dreamed of before. Because what happens is, when we do that, all of a sudden we start seeing new opportunities. Like, I could use it to do this, and I could use it to do this. So again, instead of trying to pre-plan everything, and again, maybe this is my ADHD because I don't like to pre-plan, but instead of trying to pre-plan everything and taking months to implement, and then unfortunately, because of the speed at which AI is changing, what you planned on doing 90 days ago may be a little different. The models may be different. The tools available may be different. Instead, just make it simple. Again, keep it simple. This week, pick one thing that you want to use AI to help you do better, faster, and it's something that you probably do that you just don't love doing. And then do the same thing next week. I believe, and I'd challenge anybody listening, whether they're technical or not, if they would do that for 4 weeks, by the time that fourth week again would roll around, they would find themselves doing far more than four things with AI.
Yes.
Because it's a tremendous feeling when you look at it and go, man, I used to have to spend an hour doing that. And we're 7 minutes in and I'm done. Not 7 seconds, but we're 7 minutes in and I'm done. Now all of a sudden I have time to think about things and I get excited. And what I see it happening with founders of all backgrounds is it brings a level of excitement and energy that sometimes we've just lost that edge on, because we've been, you get a little burnt out or you kind of get in a rut. And AI brings that edge back, because it's like we can see new opportunities and new perspectives that we weren't able to see before.
So good. And you're right. Starting small and just doing one thing and then another and another. And then it just opens up a huge world. And
Hmm.
just asking the question, I wonder if, could it
Yeah.
do this? Oh yeah. Well, okay. What about that? And there's just so you can definitely go down a rabbit hole.
And the great news is, if we don't like what it did, it's not like it's bitten back and it's caused a problem.
Right.
We maybe tried it and said, okay, I wasted 2 minutes. That didn't work well. I either can spend a little more time and figure out how to make it better, or I can go, we'll come back to that one later, or maybe
Right.
we'll just skip it. Maybe that's not a great use. AI is not great for everything, but it
That's
can
true.
really be amazing. Again, especially when we use it in a collaborative function, instead of trying to figure out how do we just hand it off to AI.
Right.
Not gonna AI is not gonna hire my team members for me and get me the best team members. But if I use AI to help me review resumes, it may take those 300 resumes I got and help me define the 30 that I really need to spend time looking at.
We did that recently, 550 resumes. How could anybody possibly go through that? And if so, then it's subjective. And
Exactly.
but you have the requirements, and here's what I'm looking for, and it can go
Hmm.
through, and that's exactly what happened. We ended up with 30, and kind of narrowed that down to 10, and then ultimately three. So
Yeah.
it is super super helpful. and it was so much faster and efficient. And I think maybe you miss less. I'm sure there were good people in the big pool that didn't make the cut.
But like you said, now you're likely applying a very similar profile to everybody at that point. So the similar
Yes,
question, similar filter, and is there a possibility that maybe there was a diamond in the rough that you missed? There certainly
of
is. But out of
course.
550 resumes, there's a higher likelihood in my head that as a human, we would have never looked at that resume with the discernment that we would have defined them anyway. So
Exactly.
because who, even if I could go through 550 resumes, and I probably am not capable of that, I
I'm not.
promise you by about the fifth or sixth one, I'd be like, that other guy looked pretty good, or that other gal looked pretty good. Let's just interview them because
Right.
I don't want to go through that. That would be,
Exactly.
that would just be incredibly arduous. I would hate that.
Yeah. Yeah, by the time you get to 4 or 5, I was thinking like 20. After that, it's
Yeah,
like, yeah, they all look the same. Yeah,
yeah,
there's probably nothing more
exactly.
in here.
And I think that's where it's important that as founders and as entrepreneurs, we're honest with ourselves about looking at it and going, okay, again, this isn't about perfection. This is about improvement. If
Right.
and if I can do that and I can improve, everybody wins. We're building these companies because we enjoy it, but we're also building them for the opportunities that it provides for our family, for our communities, and things like that. And I know I have more time to spend with my kids now and my grandkids than I did before AI. Not saying I mean, my wife will tell you I fill up time when I have it available, but it's much easier for me to take a step back because I know that I don't have 4 hours of work tonight. I might have an hour and a half of work tonight.
Right.
And to me, that's a win.
Without a doubt. But as AI continues to evolve quickly, and you've mentioned, short attention span multiple times, and I fall into that bucket as well. How do we avoid chasing shiny objects and
Mhm.
maybe a mindset or habit that leaders can adopt to stay relevant and productive? I mean, even as we're seeing things evolve so fast.
So the first thing I'm going to encourage people to do is to stop watching all the news about AI because there
I
there
can't.
is yeah, I know. There's so much that I can't even stay up on it all. I mean,
I
things are
can't. Yeah, I
changing
can't either.
so rapidly. And it causes stress, candidly, because we're wondering, am I using the right tool? Could I be using that? Do I need? And what I see happening with a lot of clients is that they're chasing every bright, shiny object that comes up. Most of them are not turning out to be as good as the marketing hype in the article that the CEO or the founder
100%.
read.
Yeah.
And then we're going, okay, not only did this not work out, but my team just spent 20 man hours, 40 man hours, 80 man hours, hundreds of man hours investigating something that had we just waited a hot minute until we let a few other people try it, we waited to see what happened, and we didn't again try to be on the point of that plow, that we would have done better and again been able to serve. I think that's just a trait that most of us as founders need to learn because we struggle with that. We do get distracted by the new shiny objects and wanting to improve. I'm there myself, but it's falling back to going, okay, these tools allow me to save time. They allow me to provide better value, whether that's to my team or my clients or just to myself and my family. And that when we can focus on that and say, okay, if I can, I guess it's the old 80-20 rule. If I can spend 20% of my time and get 80% of the value, that's where I want to begin. And I think that's what I encourage people to do with AI. Focus on those quick wins, focus on those things that are going to give you a lot of value with minimal effort, as opposed to going, okay, I need the perfect vehicle to drive to lunch. No, I don't need the perfect vehicle. I just need one that's reliable and
Yeah.
hopefully reasonably comfortable.
That's good. Where can people learn more about you online?
So if you're interested, another thing is always to find somebody that can help you filter this stuff out. That's one of the things I do. Just remember my name. It's Jonathan Mast. You can go to jonathanmast.com, or if you're watching versus listening and you're seeing I've got the white beard, if you just look for white beard AI, you'll find me.
Awesome.
And I've got tons and tons of free resources and happy to share those with people. We want to help people embrace the opportunities that exist.
Very good. Jonathan, it's been such a great conversation. Thank you for being on SaaS Fuel.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks again, Jonathan, for coming on the show and sharing your insights and resources. You can learn more about Jonathan and his community at whitebeardstrategies.com. As always, all links, highlights, resources, and full show notes are available at saasfuel.com. Be sure to check us out on YouTube as well. Lots of resources over there for you, including full episodes, outtakes, shorts, training, lots more for you. Thought leaders share. Share this episode with your favorite techie philosopher, the one who quotes Marcus Aurelius during code reviews. I think we probably all know somebody like that. Yeah, who would that be in your world? Techie philosopher. Well, everyone who shares this week gets an appropriate Stoic startup survival kit. Includes a minimalist journal, a tiny gong for strategic pauses, and a rubber duck for existential debugging. What makes a brand unforgettable, and why do so many forget to tell a real story? Next week, David Ebner joins us to reveal how founders can use narrative as a strategy. As the author of Kingmakers and founder of Content Workshop, David shows why story, not slogans, drives connection, trust, and real conversations. If your messaging sounds fine but kind of feels flat sometimes, this one is your playbook for turning clarity into impact. And after that is Sean Schroeder, who shares how he's building ventures that bridge digital innovation with human impact, from parenting tech to venture studios and storytelling platforms. Sean's episode is a blueprint for founders who want to lead with purpose and build products that matter. I'll see you next time, and as always, enjoy the journey.
Thanks for listening to SaaS Fuel. Full show notes for each episode, which includes a summary, key takeaways, quotes, and any resources mentioned, are available at saasfuel.com. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're enjoying the content and getting value from these episodes, please leave us a rating and review at ratethispodcast.com/SaaSfuel. We'll be sure to read these out on future episodes.